What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys in a fantasy football video. Sort of gave you guys a little bit of a different release date. Just did one day later. Just wanted to get a little bit more information this week. I didn't want to put out a video on start sits without as many of the practice reports and everything. So this will be the second start sit video. I'll be going over the middle five games in this week 16 matchup, and then I'll put out another video tomorrow going over the final six games. So if you didn't catch the Thursday night football game or primer or the following four matchups, feel free to go check out the previous video. And then, of course, we'll get the other video later. As always, too, if you guys do have any specific start sit questions, just let me know in the comments. I love doing everything I can to get your lineup set and getting you guys ready to roll this season. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully, you guys are still in it and ready to win some championships. And hopefully, you guys had a good Thursday night as well. I'm recording this after the Thursday night football game, so we got a fun game there. Hopefully, you guys didn't get beat up too badly by Chris Olave or Puka Nacua or anything that happened this week. So hopefully you guys are off to a good start, and obviously we've got really important decisions to make, and it should be a lot of fun. So yeah, with that, let's just get into the first matchup here. So starting things off with the Browns at the Texans. For the Browns, Amari Cooper, he's going to be a wide receiver 3 for me. I think I would be trying to get him in lineups. Joe Flacco's been playing really well, hyper-targeting Amari Cooper, and this Texans pass defense is certainly something that you can really expose if it helps you with context. I have one league where I'm playing Amari Cooper over Tyler Lockett and Zay Flowers, so it wasn't really a tough decision for me there. So I do prefer Amari Cooper over those guys. If you guys have any specific questions, as always, just let me know. Outside of that, for the Browns, Jerome Ford, he's going to be a low-end running back too. Really hasn't been all that effective lately. And Kareem Hunt's getting most of the short yardage and goal line work. So it's really tough for me to really highly recommend either one of them. I think one of the two probably ends up scoring a touchdown this week. I do think the Browns win this game against Houston. So you can play Ford and even Kareem Hunt in a deeper league, but it's not something that I'm super excited about, but you could certainly use them. For the Browns as well, David Njoku, he's a must start. Just been super involved with Joe Flacco, playing really well, does a lot with the ball in his hands after the catch, true red zone threat as well. You're definitely playing David Njoku. Then Joe Flacco, he's a low-end streaming option. This Texans pass defense, like I said, not good. Joe Flacco's been playing really well. They're throwing the ball a ton in Cleveland right now, so you could certainly use Joe Flacco if you need to. I'd prefer to look elsewhere, but he could be a solid option for you. For the Texans, it sounds like we're going to be without CJ Stroud once again this week, but Nico Collins will be back, and he's going to be a wide receiver 3 for me. Case Keenum played pretty well last week. I think you're playing Nico Collins, but it does come with some risk for sure. Obviously, there's a risk of Nico Collins re-aggravating that injury, and we also just don't know how well this team's going to perform against a really good Browns defense. So a little bit of concern there, but you're probably playing Nico Collins. Noah Brown, he's a low-end flex option for me. Has been really good in different situations throughout the course of the season. When he was the true number 1 for this team last week, he played really well. Case Keenum clearly looked for him quite a bit. So I think you can play Noah Brown, but like I said, this is not a great matchup against Cleveland at all. Could be a low point total for the Texans this week. So I'd prefer to look elsewhere than Noah Brown, but if you're in a really bad spot, I could see you using him for sure. Devin Singletary, he's a low-end running back too for me. I would sit Damian Pierce in this one, obviously. Devin Singletary has been getting most of the work. He looks like the most explosive running back. They're using him out of the backfield as a pass catcher just a little bit. Singletary, you can use him for sure. But again, like I said, I don't think the Texans are going to score a ton. I doubt Singletary finds the end zone this week, but you should see enough volume that you can play him. Then I'd sit the Texans tight ends. Just not enough consistent volume, especially without CJ Stroud, for me to trust either one of them this week. Next up on the docket, we've got the Packers at the Panthers. For the Packers, Aaron Jones, he's a solid running back too here. A.J. Dillon could return to action this week and limit a little bit of potential there, but I still think you're playing Aaron Jones as a running back too. I wouldn't be playing A.J. Dillon even if he's active. Jordan Love, he's a really low-end streaming option for me. You really don't need to throw the ball against the Panthers, so quarterbacks haven't been putting up too many fantasy points. The situation where teams get up early, run the ball on the Panthers, and do it with a lot of success. So I think I'd be looking elsewhere than Jordan Love this week. And outside of that, the rest of it's really up in the air. Jaden Reed and Christian Watson both did not practice on Thursday. I would anticipate being without both of them this week, and that's going to make Romeo Doubs a low-end wide receiver 3 for me. Dontavian Wicks, a wide receiver 4, a flex play. I'm not super excited about either one of them, really. Like I said, this is a Panthers team that really doesn't give it up a lot through the air just because they get beat so easily. The teams don't need to throw too much against them, so that is certainly a concern, but I still think you're playing him for sure. It's just not something that I'd be super excited about. Outside of that, Tucker Kraft, he's actually a decent streaming option for me if both Christian Watson and Jaden Reed miss this one. I think there's a situation here where the Packers would really be in a spot where they're going to have to throw the ball some, and Tucker Kraft has actually played really well, had 4 for 57 last week. He's an explosive player with the tight end situation being what it is. I think you could certainly do a lot worse than him if you needed to. For the Panthers, Chuba Hubbard, he's the only true lock for me out of the Panthers roster. He's been getting a ton of volume. He's playing really well, and this Packers run defense is not good. So Chuba Hubbard, you're playing him for sure. Take a low end or a solid running back too for me. You're going to be a top 20 play. I'd be shocked if you have better options than him. And then Adam Thielen, he's a low end flex option. really just hasn't been all that great since the bye. So I'm not super excited about that. I'd prefer to look elsewhere, but you could play him. This Packers defense isn't necessarily one that scares me. They obviously just got carved up by Baker Mayfield last week. So you could use Thielen. If you're looking for a DFS dart throw, maybe Jonathan Mingo has a shot as well, but just not really super interested in anyone else for the Panthers this week. Next, we got the Seahawks at the Titans. For the Seahawks, DK Metcalf, he's a solid wide receiver too, for sure. This Titans pass defense is not good at all, and that's going to make JSN and Lockett both solid flex plays as well. You can play them for sure. I still think I prefer Lockett to JSN. He did have 9 targets last week. I know it didn't turn into a solid fantasy outing, but he's involved in the offense still. We should get Geno Smith back, so it should bring a little bit more consistency to this offense. I still think you can play both of them, but just not super excited about either one really. Kenneth Walker, he's a running back 2 for me, but he did look fully healthy last week, played really well. I want to get him in my lineups, even though this is a tough matchup. It's certainly not something that I'm excited about, but you're definitely playing him. And I'd sit the Seattle quarterbacks. Obviously, not a situation where I'm super confident. Like I said, we should have Geno back, but I think the Seahawks and the Titans just don't really get up into a really high scoring game here. Wouldn't be super excited about either option there. For the Titans, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a low end wide receiver 3 for me. Obviously, been the true number 1 for the Titans. We are going to be seeing Ryan Tannehill again this week. It sounds like Will Levis just isn't going to be able to go. So not super excited about that, but Hopkins involved enough, good enough. You can still use him. And then Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears, they're both low end running back 2 plays for me. Not something that I'm super excited about. You're probably starting Derrick Henry, but it is a bit of a hairy situation. We want to keep our eye out for more information on potential usage changes. They've talked about sort of, and Derrick Henry especially talked about his future going forward with Titans team being a situation where they're not playing for anything anymore. So we could see them shift towards Tajay Spears a little bit more, look at that youth, and then potentially see ourselves in the spot where maybe Derrick Henry is getting phased out. So we want to keep our eye out for some more reports there, but I still think you're using Derrick Henry, low end running back 2, and then Tajay Spears. If you want to flex him or something, you certainly can. Next, we got the Colts at the Falcons. Jonathan Taylor should be returning to action for the Colts, and I think you're definitely going to play him. Zach Moss got banged up last week, hasn't practiced yet this week, so you're probably playing Jonathan Taylor. He's just obviously going to be a must start, especially if Zach Moss is inactive. Michael Pittman, if he's active, I don't know if you guys saw that hit he took last week. Hopefully he's doing okay, but he was limited in practice so far this week, if I recall. Should be in lineups if he plays. This Falcons pass defense is not one that scares me, and Pittman's just been a rock for this offense. So you're playing him if he's active. Josh Downs, he'd be a flex play that I prefer to sit unless Michael Pittman sits. If Pittman ends up inactive, then you could play Josh Downs because you'll see an increased target share. Gardner Minshew, he's going to be a low-end streaming option for me, but I just generally would prefer not to. I think you can find better options. I prefer Nick Mullins to him. I probably prefer Joe Flacco to him. There are better streaming options out there. I prefer Jake Browning to him. There are better streaming options out there if you need them. So I don't think Minshew is someone that I'd really strongly considering. For the Falcons, they're just really tough. I really don't blame you if you want to sit every single one of them. We're going to have Taylor Heineke taking over them again. So we're going to have a change at the quarterback position. Usage has just been inconsistent for all of these guys over the course of the entire season. But that being said, Bijan, he's going to be a running back 2 for me. He's got obvious up and downside. We saw the downside last week. So if you happen to make it through last week with him in your lineup, I'm honestly surprised. Good for you, but maybe you had a buy or something. So you could use Bijan this week. He's a running back 2. It makes a lot of sense for this Falcons team just to give him a ton of work. They need to probably win out to make the playoffs. He's probably their best player on offense. I think you can play him, but just understand there's a really wide range of outcomes there. Drake London, he's a flex play for me. Again, most of these Colts games end up being really high scoring. The Colts play a really fast-paced offense. A lot more plays in general against them. And also their defense hasn't been fantastic, at least in terms of preventing points to opposing wide receivers and running backs. You can play Drake London, but again, obviously the floor is super low, but I do kind of think Drake London's going to put up a good game here. And then Kyle Pitts, he's a low-end tight end option for me, but obviously it's really scary. I'm not super excited about him. I prefer London over him for sure, but obviously Kyle Pitts, talented player, should be a situation where the Falcons can succeed, so you can play him if you need to. And then last year, we got the Jaguars at the Buccaneers. For the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, he remains in concussion protocol, so we're not really entirely sure who the quarterback's going to be for the Jaguars at this point between Trevor Lawrence or CJ Beathard. I still sort of think we'll end up seeing Trevor Lawrence, but it's something we need to keep an eye on. Zay Jones likely to miss this game with a hamstring injury, so we've got plenty of injuries across the board for the Jaguars here. You're definitely starting Travis Etienne, but I don't really expect a huge game. This Buccaneers run defense is fantastic. It's really banking on quite a bit of pass game involvement for Etienne, which you certainly can do, but I just wouldn't expect a huge game on the ground specifically. Outside of that, for the Jaguars, Calvin Ridley and Evan Ingram both need to be in lineups this week. The Buccaneers pass defense is not good at all, and like I said, we're missing Zay Jones and Christian Kirk now, so plenty of targets to go around for those two. Jamal Agnew, he's kind of a fun DFS start throw this week or a deep league flex option. He obviously came through with the big touchdown last week. talented player. They want to get the ball in his hands in open space. And without Zay Jones and Christian Kirk, they could manufacture more touches for him. So if you want to flex Jamal Agnew in a deeper league situation, you could. Definitely a PPR only kind of guy, but he's definitely got some upside. He's a good player, so you could use him if you need to. For the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, one of my favorite streaming options this week. I personally played him over Matthew Stafford in one league. Doesn't look great after Thursday because Stafford obviously balled out this week, but it's a really great matchup against the Jaguars. Their pass defense is not fantastic at all, and Baker's playing really well, so you could certainly use him if you want to. Rachaad White and Mike Evans obviously need to be in lineups. They've been playing fantastic so far this season, super involved in the offense. Like I said, this Jaguars pass defense specifically is really bad. I think that all the pass catching options and really just the passing game in general should be extremely successful for the Bucks. Definitely super excited about Baker, Evans, and even Rachaad White in this one. And then Godwin, he's a really solid wide receiver 3. Again, this is a really great matchup for him. I think you're probably looking to get Godwin in your lineups, especially coming off of his great performance last week. But outside of that, I would sit all the other Bucks. I don't trust any of the other pass catchers. Don't want to play Kate Otten or any of that. But I think Godwin, Evans, and White probably need to be in lineups along with Baker. That'll do it for this start sit video. Up next, I'll go over the final 6 matchups of the week. So we'll be touching on every single game this week, doing our best to get you guys all set and locked and loaded to win your matchups this week. If there's any players or anything that I didn't mention, if you have any specific start sit questions, just let me know in the comments. I love doing what I can to get you guys set. And hopefully you guys are off to a good start. We'll get the next video out for you guys Saturday morning. Then I'll get you guys Sunday morning with the live stream and get you guys ready to rock and roll. So should be a lot of fun. If you want to make sure you don't miss anything, just subscribe to the channel. I'd love to hit that goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Hovering around 970 right now. We might not quite get there. We've sort of slowed down a little bit. People probably phasing out if they haven't made it so far in their season. So but been a lot of fun. I really appreciate all you guys, and it's just been a really fun season so far. So thanks everyone, and I'll catch you next time. So peace.